The road is good. And all the time, I must begin by thanking the PSMTIC and her ministers, as well as the ES Uganda Cooperative Alliance, Ivan Simon, for sponsoring the national dialogue. I must also thank General Karibakan Wanau for also chipping in. The dialogue presentation is none other than regional and habitat, economic, monetary, trade, financial system, infrastructure, and political integration for Africa. And I will of course go through the trajectory itself, roadmap, the milestone, and as I do that, I want to do what the EU did not do, to plan for a post for their Brexit type crisis. So as I do this one, I shall make sure that we do not ever suffer a Brexit type crisis here in Africa. And I shall do it together. I'm Dr. Polycarp Musinguzi, the retired but not tired Executive Director of Bank of Uganda. I was the Executive Director of Research from 1999 to 2002. Earlier on, of course, I've been the Director of Research Department from 1994 to 1999. I'm currently in terms of Bank of Uganda. After retiring from the Bank of Uganda, after stint in the Governor's Office, as the ED, and as the economic advisor to the Governor, right from the time of Governor, the humble, the most respected gentleman, Governor Charles Chikonyogo, followed by the Visionary Governor, Professor Mutulo. I must say that I'm actually speaking about this on their shoulders. I don't want to blow my own trumpet. I'm actually standing on their shoulders, and hopefully I'll fill the void. I'm also a member and a consultant for the African Central Bank Steering Committee of the African Union Commission at the continental level. I was resident in Abuja for 2 years, to establish the African Central Bank, because the headquarters in Abuja, to establish that central bank and plan the launch of the African single currency. Don't be now, don't be tomorrow, but by 2028, 2034, we shall have had an African single currency. Hence, my reliance on the regional economic community, especially ESC and COMESA, to do what we must do, to do their building. Because we cannot have a continental African currency, an African central bank, would have not had the regional ones. Okay? So now it starts. We are going to look at the political economic context. Everything has got a political economic context. You do not simply branch into an East African Monetary Union or Professor Monetary Union or African Monetary Union. You are going to do a lot of preparatory work. We are going to look at the net benefits of entering a monetary union, either at the regional level or at the continental level. We are going to look at the prerequisites or the preconditions, what we call the optimum currency area criteria, OCA, that will actually and therefore converge while minimizing the cost of integration. We are going to look at the lessons. We are going to pick lessons from successful rates. The European and Monetary Union, the European Economic and Monetary Union, and other rates. And we also look at the challenges that they have faced and try to avoid them, to preempt them. Otherwise, why are you learning from them? Because And you must also remember that actually the EU, which I'm saying is successful despite the Brexit crisis, copied from us. Remember what the Virgin EAC carries on in the 60s, when there was African shilling, even the coin, the notes and the coin. We had serious multi-policy coordination and fiscal policy coordination in the early 60s. So, it's right, we have made some steps, and then we retreated, and then we have come back. I shall go through that. I shall also make recommendations for an appropriate design of the trajectory of the roadmap and the stages, and we shall in particular see whether some of the stages or phases should be fast-tracked or become simultaneous or be gradualist, cautious gradualism or fast-tracked gradualism. Okay? We shall look, of course, I shall look at the strategic go forward in terms of those stages, the approach, the strategic plan and roadmap with clearly defined tasks, deliverables, the milestones, and look at the shifting nature of the dates for launching the African single currency or the regional single, and why we keep on shifting dates and goalposts. Some are complaining about shifting goalposts. I shall complain about shifting dates as if we lack commitment. I shall also look at the existing regional monetary institutes, the commercial monetary institute, which I helped design. I'm not borrowing my bucket here now. I was in the kitchen to establish the commercial monetary institute. I did a study, and my son here is already here attending it because it was part and parcel of the IT complexities of that commercial study, which went to the governors, the heads of state, and they approved the commercial monetary institute. Now, we are still struggling to set up the Southern Monetary Institute near home. How come it was easy to do the commercial monetary institute? How come the Southerners were able to do the West African Monetary Institute and start and running? And we are still dilly-dallying about even the headquarters of the Southern Monetary Institute. We shall talk about all that. Finally, I shall give you why you must move steadily and sure-footedly into the African Central Bank. Those of you who have been following the AU activities, the Abuja 1992 and its ratification in Cotonou 1994 sets the scene for the African Monetary Union and for other REC monetary unions. And in particular, the African Union Constitutive Act, Article 19, provides for the setting up of all these. The African Central Bank, the African Monetary Fund, that one is in Yaoundé, Cameroon, and the African Investment Bank, that one is in Tripoli, Libya. And just, by the way, the African Investment Bank, for all the troubles in Tripoli, was actually up and running. Don't say we do not have an African Investment Bank. I see the papers, people say, hey, we need an African Investment. We already have one. It was there even before the African Central Bank, even before the African Monetary Fund. So there is one in Tripoli, make use of it. Now, what are these shifting dates? And this is my complaint. The EAC was supposed to launch the East African Monetary Union in December 2012, but it was shifted by a year to November 30th, 2013. And it was signed in Munyonyo here, in this same Munyonyo here, by the then 5 EAC heads of state. Of course, the host was our own president, General Yoweri Kaguta Tumuhaburwa. That was a big plus for the region. I know my friend Ben Kahunga said that some of these things looked very ceremonial. I want to disagree with you. To integrate is not being ceremonial. To integrate is a very serious business. It is a political experiment, yes, but it's serious business. Now, the danger that we keep on not actually living to our deadlines. So, the EAC single currency roadmap had provided that we launch it by the end of this year, 2024. After shifting the dates, they said by end of this 2024 we must have launched the EAC single currency by whatever name. The name is not important at this stage. But we have yet to operationalize the supplementary receipt to do the homework. We have yet to operationalize the Financial Services Commission to do the local homework. We have yet to operationalize the EAC surveillance services or the Bureau. We have yet to operationalize the EAC surveillance, monitoring, and compliance commission, which the EAC heads of state say no. Do we walk the talk? That's going to be the question. Fortunately, our first Deputy Prime Minister has been trying to convince her colleagues in the EAC. I know she has traveled wide and far to do her work, but we must support her. This exercise is not a one-person exercise. Because the stakeholders must be involved right from the very early stage. I want to go through the stages I'll take you to three important pillars, whether it is the EAC, whether it is commercial, whether it is at the continental level. Remember, it was in our own campaign that the heads of state decided on an EAC commercial SADC tripartite in our own capital city here. The EAC commercial SADC tripartite has got three pillars of development. One is the market integration pillar, the second is the association pillar, and the third is the market integration pillar. Those pillars are very important, and I know the staff of the OMTIC, they have a commercial desk. I know they have been part and parcel of this. I will tell you more, but I won't go through it now. But I also want you to know that there is another tripartite-like arrangement, or would want to form between ECAS. ECAS is the REC for the Central African region. It combines with ECOWAS, the Economic Community of West African States. And the third one, the Arab Maghreb Union, AMU, they could also form another tripartite. Now, don't forget that there is the Francophone regional grouping called CENSAD, traversing Francophone Cameroon, Francophone Central Africa, up to all those Francophone countries. That one is called CENSAD. So there is hope that if those tripartite legs can emulate our own rate here, then it is easier to integrate the whole African continent by 2028, 2034, which is the date that the AU of state have signed on to. Now, what is the roadmap? This is the road we shall be traversing. In 2013, we were supposed to have formed the African Monetary Institute. It has been approved on paper, but has not been operationalized. In fact, our study group was supposed to have to metamorphose into this African Monetary Institute. I told you I was resident in Abuja for 2 years, and I was treated like a king. More of a king than when I was in the back of Uganda. In 2017, we were supposed to have an African free trade area, but rest by Peter for infrastructure development. PIDA is the program for infrastructure development in Africa. You cannot talk about free trade when you do not have interconnectivity, whether on the payments and settlement system, or whether transport, roads and rail and air. So the AU heads of state approved what they call the Yamoussoukro Declaration for Airways Liberalization. That's up and running. Okay? You have heard of the Yamoussoukro Declaration. And now we have PIDA in action in phases 1 up to 3. And now instead of the FTA, we have the grand AFTA, the African Continental Free Trade Area, the AFCFTA. So that's a plus, although it came after 2017. It was actually supposed to come in 2020, but it was of course COVID that disrupted it. But it's now up and running, but it has got some hurdles, and certainly this MTIC and MTIC staff here will tell us more about the AFCFTA progress. I'm banking on it and should not bank on it and support it. In 2019, of course, the FCFTA is supposed to go to the African Customs Union, but we don't have it, of course. We don't have it, but I would want to know where the progress is being made towards the African Customs Union. In 2021, the Association of Central Banks had envisaged to launch the African single currency. Of course, that didn't happen. And I'm not going to talk about it. It is right. The devil is in the detail. In 2028, we're supposed to have an African economic, monetary, fiscal, and banking union. Remember, the EU suffered from banking problems, banking crisis after the global financial and economic crisis of 2008 that was after the years. So here is the African economic, monetary, fiscal, and banking union with an African central bank, an African single currency. But again, at this stage, the PIDA will still be kicking in because we shall be refining and improving infrastructure for interconnectivity and for reducing the cost of doing business. That's the roadmap. I want to go through the list of benefits. I'll simply say the biggest benefit of an African monetary union or a regular monetary union is to anchor fiscal discipline. And you know, in our current context, what we mean by fiscal discipline. The ESC or commercial African monetary will anchor fiscal discipline. Fiscal and monetary discipline. You bear sure of that. Some individual states will not be inflating the economy by adding stimulants, adding revenue just by simply inflating through central bank financing of the deficits. Okay? That type of discipline will not be there. So the most important benefit of entering monetary union is to anchor monetary and fiscal discipline and exchange rate stability without exchange losses. The exchange rate is zero. Okay? Because I've got a single currency, you don't have to move with Uganda shillings from Uganda through Malawi and Busia and suffer an exchange rate loss when you are going to Kenya shillings. Then from Kenya to Tanzania, you suffer another exchange rate loss at Namanga and back, or continue to Malawi and suffer a partial exchange rate, and then proceed to Zambia and suffer a Zambia partial exchange rate. No, we shall be having a single currency and there will be no exchange loss. Okay? Now, what will be the major cost? The major cost. The most important, there are so many, there are six, there are fewer than the benefit. But the most important cost, which I want you to remember, is that presidents now, if you now talk over the Central Bank and African Federation, states fear losing sovereignty over monetary, fiscal, and exchange rate policy. They fear. Some of them also fear that losing their titles. But to reduce the fear of losing titles, you can have a rotating presidency like the EU. Even a country like Switzerland has got rotating presidency, moving from one canton to another canton. So if I were president, I would behave like our president. Our president has no such fears within our region. Okay? He's the champion of ESC political federation or confederation. And every time I see he will make a move to make sure that that happens. Somebody drags his feet in the region. I won't mention names. But let's support our president and move us towards the ASC Political Federation. It means a lot to anchor stability for all of us. Those of you who are in business will have a longer planning, investment, and savings horizon. You have to stabilize Russian expectations in your businesses and to anchor macroeconomic and financial and exchange rate stability. Okay? Those are the most, I'll summarize all those. I'll now go to the recommendations. Oh, before I go to the recommendations, what are the OCA? OCA, the optimal currency area criterions, are ideal constructs of an ideal rate. The optimal currency area criteria are prerequisites, preconditions that must first meet. And there are quite a number of them, but I'll emphasize on the three. Real trade integration. You cannot go into more trade if you cannot trade. If you are not produce goods for trade, what are you uniting for? What do you want the current support? You must first deliver goods and services. So you must enhance productivity and enhance production. So you can trade significantly across borders and within the region and across the continent and even globally. Okay? So you must first deliver production and productivity. The second one is financial market integration, and that means even financial system integration. That means the payment system, the settlement systems, the super highways. Okay? The digital system, mobile financial services. Okay? The super highway. I'm not meaning the highway between Kampala and I'm not meaning that the super highway, the digital one. I know it. Why don't I go to regulations? The third, I've already talked about the three most important ones. Now, this one is very important because if I don't go through this one I've already summarized my words, but I want to show you that there is a chart to underpin that. So there is a chart of those stages. I want to go through all the 5 stages of African Monetary Union. I want to go through all of them. But that summarizes it. In your free time, the demo is in the detail. That roadmap is very clear, it's very detailed. These 5, look, I don't want people just simply talk. I don't want words. We must even clear and spell out the activities and the tasks and the deliverables and the implementers and even provide adequate financial sources for that. Lieutenant General Kavuma yesterday talked of not only before you supervise, before you monitor, before you actually enforce compliance, before you enforce it, you must facilitate the implementers. This must have a budget. The problem with Africa is that for all the wealth, for all the mineral wealth, the high value wealth, the high value minerals that propel the Western industries and the defense industries, we are poor. For all that wealth that we have on the continent, African states have failed to finance their own programs. As I speak now, the African Central Bank is still on paper. The African single currency is still on paper. The African Monetary Institute is still on paper. Because there is no budget. The whole continent, as rich as it is, has no budget. About 60% of the budget used to come from the EU. Now, it has, of course, for the other reasons they have that suffered their own way. That budget has evaporated, and the Afghans are not wanting, they don't see the wealth that they have to finance their own programs. Now, the next steps. 3 next steps. 1, the heads of state have already done their work. They have already approved this in principle. What is now left is number 2, the effective operationalization of those institutions. The African Central Bank and the bodies that must support the African Monetary Institute, the precursor. 3, the emphasis on promoting and supporting and financing AFCFTA to champion and increase intra-African trade, that Africans can trade within themselves, among themselves, from the low level of 20% now to the EU levels of 70% and beyond. If we cannot help ourselves, who is going to help us? You saw what happened to COVID. Are you going to bank on the Musinguzi again? Bank on yourselves. And thank you.
Then we end up with technical issues, things which tend to bog us down on matters that require deeper understanding before we can move to the next item, or to the next stage. And I wish that when we are prioritizing all our debates here, we focus on the first three and leave technical issues to be at a later stage, because for the technical issues to evolve into a policy to take quite a long time. Next, we look at the legal, the policy and the legal which are combined in these slides. At the level of the legal, the trade sector is being governed through the chapter 88 of the External Trade Act of July 1953. It has been reviewed, I think, twice or three times in the 1970s, and if I'm not mistaken, it is the same Bible that is governing us today. We then look at the Free Zones Act of May 2014. We look at the Export Promotions Board being repealed in 2024. And I would say maybe that it is unfortunate that our sequencing appears to have been maybe contradicted. To be contradicted in the sense that the outcomes of this should be informing the Cabinet Memo 2024, which is trying to repeal the board. It should also be informing the Free Zone and Export Promotions Authority, which is being proposed. I think it is in a very highly advanced stages of conclusion, and to be asking ourselves at what point in time would our input here feed into this noble cause when the parliamentarians are concluding their journey. We would also need to look at the rationalization of government agencies sector amendment bill 2024. We look at the Uganda National Trade Policy 2007. We look at the Uganda National Trade Strategy 2007. It is now, I think it is now, it ended 2012, meaning that maybe something to be put in play in position today, this is the right forum to review that strategy, review that policy, and see how best we can look at the SWOT, corresponding SWOT frameworks, the SWOT of the policy, the SWOT of the strategy. And consolidate on those items that we find ourselves to have about strengths, and also take on board those areas where we have got opportunities, and relate the necessary policy frameworks to address the weaknesses as well as the threats therein. Then we look at the broader context relating to the East African Treaty, the East African Customs Union Protocol, the East African Common Market Protocol, the East African Monetary Union Protocol, and the Continental Free Trade Area Protocol. I'm not going to cover all of them, but just the contextual framework in which I believe that we should be positioning our thoughts and our discussions. In the sense that when you look at these issues of integration, we are looking at the issue of trade for who and by who, and who should take responsibilities. General Kaufman did elaborate most of this yesterday, pacifying the responsibilities. Yes, just coordination, but I would say they need to be more mandates to at the export-led growth, the financing part of it, I would say export or perish. If you don't want to export, perish. And everything that we are doing, we must, for you to be able to export, you must be able to have the capacity to produce beyond or of the stomach. We need to produce, to have the capacity to produce what we are able to, what we are currently producing, or what we are currently providing for. And we look at export-led hypothesis and we say export expansion is one of the critical determinants of growth. We also look at the participatory rates. We are currently 9.2 million households in Uganda. We need to locate where are these households, who are they, what are they engaged in, how best can we mobilize them, how best can we harness them, how best can we use their capacities, and how best can we, both in terms of when we're talking about capacity, by the way, it's not just capacity like you attend conferences like this of this nature. My conceptual framework of the capacity is 3 dimensions. There's human resource capacity building, there's institutional capacity building, and there's the environmental capacity building. Those 3 have to be taken in consonance so that at least you maximize and leverage the maximum possible. And we also have to look at the 800,000 registered entities. Honorable PS Red, you have a bill which is quite too big. How we advocate these people and how to bless them and how to bring them on board. We talk about in demography issues to do with the stillbirths and infant mortality. They are very unfortunate concepts, but they are realities in our populations. But I used to borrow those concepts and apply them in the business sector. We have got very high stillbirths in the business sector. We have got very high infant mortality rates in the business sector. And when I'm talking about these mortality rates, I'm referring to the businesses started at the 9.2 million household level. I'm talking about the businesses started with the 0.8 million entities registered. You start a business today, will hardly succeed after the second year or third year. What is it that is causing us to be this in this way? You pay different here, pay different in another market. That's making our products non-competitive when you go out to these markets, and that is also becoming a very huge effect. The big one for me, again, speaking into this session, is that discussions at policy level that actually never get to the beneficiaries. There is a lot of things you hear when you come to a room like this one, but the feedback mechanisms of how this go back to the people that they're supposed to benefit have not been well set. And I think we can really improve in that area. When a session like this happens, how does I remember the PSS and they say, when you're part of the 5% that don't know in Uganda, you're probably in a better place, but when you're now part of the people who know, you're surprised with how much Ugandans do not know of the opportunities the government has actually provided. Again, we talked about Yuri. Personal example, I had a person who was going to start a milk business and they were struggling. And here I told them, no, I know of that opportunity. And they went and they were supported. But how many good things do we discuss here, but actually we lack the feedback mechanisms to take them back to the people that they are supposed to benefit? I doubt that I'll go to Kalungu Masaka and I'll find a trader or an exporter and they'll know the things we know in this room, because you'd wonder how did it even get to them. So have we invested a lot of time and power to make sure that that information goes? Then also the response time on the non-tariff barriers, we are still having a bit of an issue. So when you get a challenge, us being very clear, which office do you go to, like in the ministry? Where? Which is that person who's going to help you and in what time? So that they speedy turnaround to avoid any issues that at times we get while exporting these products. I think generally those are the constraints. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. The lady who should have been Doreen did not turn up, but it's okay. We are discussing common interests for the whole country and not just for men only. So we will let that pass. Can I have some hands Remember, we are discussing the opportunities and constraints in accessing regional and foreign markets for Ugandan products. Issues of uncertain, unpredictable policies, no war chest, low local purchasing power, false adherence to East African protocols, low involvement of stakeholders, lack of consultation have been raised. If you can raise more, so much the better. If you can disagree, Honorable Kiraso, I want to start with you, but I'm tempted to start with Honorable Professor Latigo. He has been raising, okay, he has handed you the microphone.
Say my name, I stand up, and then you change goalposts. I know, yeah, he was intimidated.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, because the eyes, he was very intimidatory. But anyway, you said there was no lady there, so I might as well start. Just very few points. 2 minutes, eh? I'm going back to my PMA. Do you think if we had implemented zoning, because we can still go back to it, could that have happened, have helped to address issues of quality and quantity, including outgrowers coming in some areas? So the answer is yes. The other one is an observation, and it has come out also from the previous presentations. I seem to get a sense that the government is operating in silos. You are saying yes already? Yeah. It's operating in silos where people are keeping their territories very close to their chest, where ministries and government departments are not speaking to each other, where information, both horizontally and vertically, is not being shared. I know this may not be the forum that will address that because it's something that's general on all the government, and I don't know why it does the planning function of the Minister of Finance and Planning. Could it play a role? I'm just asking because I don't know how government operates. The other one is on the private sector constraints. I'm very happy that we listened to somebody like Moffitt and the beer people and Jews who are living business like day to day. The involvement of stakeholders in decision making, this has really shocked me. It has shocked me because, Madame Geraldine, if your ministry does not involve the private sector, the businessmen, if you are not engaging them, then how are the policies, decisions, regulations being made? How do you get your feedback? And how do they get the feedback from you? I think that is something that can be fixed. If it's not being done enough, just enhance it. There's even no reason for being on the defensive on the part of government. We shouldn't be on the defensive. We are here to improve. I'm surprised that there's nobody from the East African Business Council. The East African Business Council, in the spirit of the Common Market Protocol, whose implementation I can claim ignorance. I don't know how far it has gone in being implemented, but I'm really surprised that you have issues of harmonization of standards, harmonization of taxes, just within the East African community before you even go to the international certification. Charity begins at home. How about our own? Because we also have issues of standards here internally. The Bureau of Standards, isn't that isn't it under your ministry? Are they here? Could something be talked about regarding standards? I think I'll stop there for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Kirasa.
Yeah, thank you very much. Before I make a contribution to what our colleagues have said, I just wanted to say something about UDC. You know, I sat here listening, and I asked myself, UDC, UDB, if it is about funding somebody to do something, how different is it from UDB doing the funding? And therefore I asked myself, amongst the things that you talked about, I didn't hear about training the people whom you are supporting, developing their management capacities, the research you are assisting them with, and then the publicity of what you are, so that those who can potentially benefit from who you are will tap into that potential. So those are the things that came into my mind. But going back to the presentation by Dr. Kiangire, the first African Catholic Bishop of Gulu was Dr. Kiangire also, who incidentally was, in his very early years, taught by my dad, who was a teacher. You had good mathematical equations there, and while you talked about export, your primary elements in the equation was about consumption. And that is where the fundamental issue is. Those countries that changed, that transformed like China, they build the internal consumptive capacity. Because it is within the internal consumptive capacity that products are tested, products are improved, competencies to produce are enhanced, and competitiveness comes. And you are then able to compete as an exporter. And for Uganda, I heard you talk about moving to services and knowledge base. We forget that what we are talking about is about us, the people. It's not about the economy. The economy is about us. And if 65% of Ugandans are basically still in subsistence agriculture, then your focus on export, that doesn't include changing them, becomes a very dangerous challenge. And I can guarantee you, regardless of how competent you are at promoting your government, there will be no change. And in the end, people will come down to complain. Agriculture declining in percentage relative to the other sectors. For Uganda, the truth is that we have had a decline in productivity. And you know, those percentages are relative. If I stay at 10 and the other ones come to 8, the percentages will change. And yet, in those developed countries, the proportion of people who engage in agriculture is very small, but the productivity of those individuals are very high. And therefore, and then those who engage in that agriculture, like in the US, they're able to buy big machinery, $500,000 tractor. Now there are tractors that you program it, it will go and plow and then come back. You don't have to go to the field. In the US now, it is robots that harvest crops. We must get our people out of that subsistence agriculture. And until we can make our agriculture
is actually private sector led. We appreciate when we are given an opportunity as well to participate. So I'm Jitendra Robert Gobi. I'm the head of communications and corporate affairs at Morbid Products Limited, fully indigenous Ugandan business. I I believe today impacting very many lives, employing over 2,000 plus Ugandans, contributing over 24 billion Uganda shillings in terms of taxes. And we are continuously innovating and hoping to add on to more impact onto the economy. In this regard of looking at opportunities, I'm going to come from a more practical angle of what we've done as Mobit. So we looked at number one being the aspect of the trade agreements. Like we've said, we are not there yet, but for us we'd like to say it's a step in the right direction, for the fact that now the conversations around the East African community are getting a bit better. When you get to the borders, there is some level of acceptance, but again we are really calling on to the ministry to support us better in regards to us winning in that regard. So there's a lot of conversation that goes on in terms of policy making, but yet on the ground we are not feeling it, but at least we see good steps in the right direction. Then also another opportunity for us has been the continental trade fairs. I know Ugandan companies are not taking a lot of, are not taking the opportunity in this, and we are seeing this because you go to Ethiopia, go to Nigeria, and you'll barely find another Ugandan business. But for us, these have been central on how to actually penetrate the markets, because it's there that you find the reliable distributors, you find people interested in the product, and then that actually becomes your route into entering a certain market. Then also the growth in the digital marketplace. I believe today we've seen Ugandans that are trading products on Amazon. These are things that obviously you're not going to say you're going to for now reap a lot of money from, but it's opportunities that are growing. And we believe that these are also opportunities that several other players can take on and actually also gain. Then in regards to the opportunities, there is partnerships and mergers, but these again are for businesses at a certain level where you're able to get a partner in any of these other markets, because at times succeeding in a market like DRC may not come as simply as imagined while we sit in our country.
Spend a lot of time on adaptation and scratching our heads, because it's simply implementation, it's simply operation. Then we end up with technical issues, things which tend to bog us down on matters that require deeper understanding before we can move to the next item, or to the next stage. And I wish that when we are prioritizing all our debates here, we focus on the first three and give technical issues to be at a later stage, because for the technical issues to develop into a policy to take quite a long time. Next, we look at the legal, the policy and the legal which are combined in these slides. At the level of the legal, the trade sector is being governed through the Chapter 88 of the External Trade Act of July 1953. It has been reviewed, I think, twice or three times in the 1970s, and if I'm not mistaken, it is the same Bible that is governing us today. We then look at the Free Zones Act of May 2014. We look at the Export Promotions Board being repealed in 2024, and I would say maybe that it is unfortunate that our sequencing appears to have been maybe contradicted. To be contradicted in the sense that the outcomes of this should be informing the cabinet memo 2024, which is trying to repeal the board. It should also be informing the Free Zone and Export Promotions Authority, which is being proposed. I think it is in a very highly advanced stages of conclusion, and to be asking ourselves at what point in time would our input here feed into this noble cause when the parliamentarians are concluding their journey. We would also need to look at the rationalization of government agencies sector amendment bill 2024. We look at the Uganda National Trade Policy 2007. We look at the Uganda National Trade Strategy 2007. It is now, it ended 2012, meaning that maybe if it's something to be put in position, then this is the right forum to review that strategy, review that policy, and see how best we can look at the SWOT, corresponding SWOT frameworks, the SWOT of the policy, the SWOT of the strategy, and consolidate on those items that we find ourselves to have about strengths, and also take on board those areas where we have got opportunities, and relate the necessary policy frameworks to address the weaknesses as well as the threats therein. Then we look at the broader context relating to the East African Treaty, the East African Customs Union Protocol, the East African Common Market Protocol, the East African Monetary Union Protocol, and the Continental Free Trade Area Protocol. I'm not going to cover all of them, but just the contextual framework in which I believe that we should be positioning our thoughts and our discussions. In the sense that when you look at this issue of intervention, we are looking at the issue of trade for who and by who, and who should take responsibilities. General Kavuma did elaborate most of this yesterday, specifying the responsibilities. There's just coordination, but I would say they need to be more mandates beyond coordination so that they can also do some others. We will then look at the export-led growth, the financing part of it. I would say export or perish. If you don't want to export, perish. And everything that we are doing, we must, for you to be able to export, you must be able to have the capacity to produce beyond one of the stomach. We need to produce, to have the capacity to produce what we are currently producing, or what we are currently providing for. And we look at export-led hypothesis, and we say export expansion is one of the critical determinants of growth. We also look at the participatory rates. We are currently 9.2 million households in Uganda. We need to locate where are these households, who are they, what are they engaged in, how best can we mobilize them, how best can we harness them, how best can we use their capacities, and how best can we, both in terms of when we are talking about capacity, by the way, it's not just capacity like you attend conferences like this of this nature. My conception from of a capacity is 3 dimensions. There's human resource capacity building, there's institutional capacity building, and there's the environmental capacity building. Those 3 have to be taken in consonance so that at least you maximize and leverage the maximum possible. And we also have to look at the 800,000 registered entities. Honorable PS Red, you have a bill which is quite too big. Where advocate these people and how to raise them and how to bring them on board. We talk about in demography issues to do with the stillbirths and infant mortality. They are very unfortunate concepts, but they are realities in our populations. But I used to follow those concepts and apply them in the business side. I'm requested to make panel discussions related to financing Uganda's export-led growth. This is a very big topic, very complicated and very intriguing. I have my background in central banking, having spent close to 30 years in the central bank. I'm Bank of Uganda Emeritus, and I'm also World Bank consultant at the Southern Community, and where I'm also an witness. Now I am alone as a private consultant. I intend to spend almost maybe around 10 minutes, something like 10 minutes in my presentation.